The final descent. The night was supposed to be a celebration. The city of New Aurora had planned a massive festival to coincide with the once-in-a-lifetime blood moon. People set up tents, prepared food, and lined the streets with lights, all eager to witness the rare celestial event. But as the sun set, an unsettling energy crackled in the air and the moon hung ominously large and crimson in the sky. Among the crowd was Lila, a rebellious artist known for her wild streak and a penchant for pushing boundaries. She had always been drawn to the night and the mysteries it held, but tonight felt different. As she gazed at the moon, she felt a strange compulsion, a dark whisper that tugged at her soul. "Hey, Lila, you coming?" shouted her friend Jake, pulling her from her trance. "Yeah, just lost in thought," she replied, forcing a smile. The festival buzzed around them, but beneath the surface the air felt thick with tension. As the clock struck midnight, the moon began to tremble, a low rumble echoing from above. The crowd quieted, eyes fixated on the sky as the moon shifted, jagged cracks appearing across its surface. "Is this part of the show?" someone shouted, laughter tinged with nervousness. But Lila's heart sank. She knew it wasn't. The moon began to break apart, sending shards flying into the atmosphere like shooting stars. Panic erupted as people screamed and ran in all directions, desperate to escape the inevitable disaster. "Lila, we have to go," Jake yelled, grabbing her arm. But she couldn't move. A primal instinct held her in place, drawing her closer to the chaos. In that moment of hesitation, a massive fragment of the moon broke free and hurtled toward Earth, crashing down just outside the city. The ground shook violently, sending shockwaves through the festival. "Lila, now." Jake pulled her away, but she resisted. "I have to see it," she shouted, her eyes wild with adrenaline. As they approached the impact site, they found a massive crater glowing with an eerie light. The air was thick with smoke and the scent of something burnt and metallic. But at the center of the crater, a pulsating orb of energy thrummed, drawing Lila closer. It was beautiful and terrifying, a dark allure that beckoned her. "What the is that?" Jake shouted, his voice laced with panic. "We need to get the out of here." But Lila stepped closer, entranced. The orb pulsed with a rhythm that resonated deep within her. She felt a connection, a merging of her very essence with the energy radiating from it. Shadows began to emerge from the edges of the crater, figures twisted and malformed, their faces contorted in agony. "They're trapped," Lila gasped, realization dawning on her. "They're lost souls." Jake's grip tightened around her wrist. "You can't help them. We need to leave." But Lila shook her head. Her eyes locked on the orb. "No, they need me." As she stepped forward, the shadows surged, reaching for her. Lila felt their pain, their despair washing over her like a tidal wave. She was overwhelmed, the weight of their suffering pressing down on her. "I won't abandon you," she cried, raising her hands toward the orb. Energy surged through her, a dark power igniting within. In that moment, Lila became a conduit, channeling the anguish of the lost souls. The shadows twisted and writhed, drawn into her like moths to a flame. She could feel their stories, their lives, and their fears merging with her own. Jake watched in horror as Lila transformed. Her eyes glowed with a fierce light, and a dark aura enveloped her. "Lila, fight it," he shouted, desperate to reach her. But she was lost, consumed by the power of the orb. In a crescendo of energy, she howled, a sound that echoed across the landscape, blending with the cries of the trapped souls. The orb exploded in a blinding flash of light, and Lila was engulfed. When the light faded, the crater was silent. The shadows had vanished, and Lila stood at the edge, her body trembling. She looked at Jake, her expression a mix of triumph and horror. "I set them free," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. But as she spoke, a chilling realization dawned. The energy had not only liberated the souls, it had changed her. A dark hunger stirred within, a craving for chaos and destruction. The night air crackled with electricity, and the moon, now a fragmented memory, shone eerily in the sky. "What did you do?" Jake breathed, backing away. "I don't know," Lila replied, her voice distant. "But I can feel them. They're with me now." In that moment, she felt a surge of power, the fragments of the moon and the souls intertwining within her. A wicked smile curled on her lips as she turned to Jake, eyes gleaming with newfound darkness. The ground trembled again, and shadows began to rise, swirling around her like a tempest. "Lila, we need to get out of here," Jake shouted, fear etched on his face. But she laughed, a sound rich with madness. "Why would I leave? This is just the beginning." As she unleashed the dark energy within, a wave of destruction washed over New Aurora. Buildings crumbled, the sky darkened, and the echoes of the lost souls turned into a symphony of chaos. The night that was meant to celebrate the moon's beauty had transformed into a nightmare, a harbinger of doom. And as the world fell into darkness, Lila embraced her fate, becoming a vessel of horror, the last remnant of the moon's tragic descent.